This story is called I Canceled My Girlfriend's Stay at a Luxury Resort that I paid for after she used my tickets to go with her friends instead of me. Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's video, I need your support. We've noticed that the channel is losing momentum, and one of the best ways you can help is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you amazing content. Your support means everything to us, so let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks a lot! Now, let's get into the video. Hi Reddit, I'm Jason, 30 years old, and I've been in a relationship with Lisa, 28, for 3 years. I'm the type of guy who always gives 110% to the things I care about, and Lisa is no exception. So when her birthday and our 3-year anniversary were just a week apart, I wanted to plan something big, something unforgettable. I spent a lot of time organizing a 5-day vacation at a luxury resort in Miami. This wasn't an ordinary trip either. I reserved the best suite, arranged fun activities, and even booked a private beach dinner. Every single detail was meticulously planned because, well, I had one more thing in mind. I was going to propose. I'd been saving for this ring for almost a year. It wasn't flashy, but it was timeless and elegant, just her style. I pictured the moment, us walking on the beach at sunset, her saying yes, and me feeling like the luckiest guy in the world. It felt like the right time. We had been discussing the future more often, and I was ready to take that next step. When I first told Lisa about the trip, she seemed genuinely thrilled. She kept talking about how amazing Miami would be and joked about how her Instagram would be filled with pictures of the beach, food, and sunsets. I have to admit, I was a little irritated that she seemed more focused on Instagram than the actual experience, but I brushed it off. That's just who Lisa is. She loves sharing her life online. But as the trip got closer, I noticed her excitement starting to fade. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has off days, right? But then it became a pattern. She started taking longer to respond to my texts and rarely answered my calls. When I brought up the trip, her responses were vague, like, "Yeah, it'll be fun," or "I can't wait," but without the same energy as before. I tried to be patient. Lisa had mentioned that work had been stressful, and I thought that might be the reason for her change in mood. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I asked her a few times if everything was okay. "Is something bothering you about the trip?" I'd ask, but she always shrugged it off. "No, everything's fine. You're just overthinking," she'd reply, quickly changing the subject. Then, about 2 weeks before the trip, I noticed her spending more time on her phone than usual. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about it because Lisa is practically glued to her phone. But this time, she was being extra secretive. If I walked into the room, she'd immediately lock the screen or flip her phone face down. I even joked, "What? Are you planning a surprise for me?" She just gave an awkward laugh and said, "Something like that." I tried not to dwell on it, but my gut kept telling me something was off. Maybe I was being paranoid, or maybe all the small things were adding up. The odd vibe, the lack of enthusiasm, and the fact that she'd been spending more time with her best friend Taylor lately. Normally, I wouldn't care. Lisa and Taylor had been friends forever, but I couldn't help noticing that Taylor always seemed to show up whenever Lisa canceled plans with me. One evening, about a week before the trip, Lisa told me she had to work late. That wasn't unusual. She's a graphic designer and sometimes takes on freelance projects outside her full-time job. But later that night, I checked Instagram and saw a story that Taylor posted. They were out having dinner together. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to seem controlling or needy, but it made me wonder why Lisa lied. If she wanted to spend time with Taylor, she could have just told me. The night before the trip, I packed my bags, double-checked everything, tickets, itinerary, and, of course, the ring. Despite my lingering doubts, I tried to stay hopeful. Lisa texted me around 10 p.m., saying she was really tired and going to bed early to be ready for the flight. I told her to rest well and that I'd pick her up at 9 a.m. She replied with just a thumbs-up emoji, which wasn't the warm response I was hoping for, but I let it go. As I went to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. I told myself I was overthinking again. After all, the trip was going to be perfect, right? Little did I know, the next 24 hours would change how I saw Lisa, our relationship, and even myself. The morning of the trip started like any other. I woke up early, double-checked my bag, and mentally ran through everything for the trip. Then it hit me. My passport wasn't in my bag. I couldn't believe I forgot something so important, but it wasn't a big deal. I remembered leaving it in my office drawer after using it for some work-related documents a few weeks earlier. I figured I'd stop by the office, grab the passport, and still make it to Lisa's place by 9:30 a.m. I sent her a quick text, letting her know about the delay, but she didn't reply. I didn't think much of it at the time. When I arrived at the office, it was unusually quiet. As I walked to my desk, I saw my assistant Jenna sorting through some files. "Morning. What are you doing here? Still not packed?" she asked, surprised to see me. I told her I was just there to grab my passport, but before I could finish, she cut me off. "Oh, by the way, your meeting with OneCorp is in 10 minutes. Are you prepared?" I froze. "What meeting?" I asked, completely puzzled. Jenna looked confused too. "The one with OneCorp. It's been on your calendar all week. You confirmed it a few days ago." I pulled out my phone to check my calendar, and there it was, a meeting scheduled for today that I had supposedly confirmed. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through the email chain. The meeting invite had been sent earlier in the week, but it wasn't me who replied. Someone had used my email to confirm the meeting, and the reply read, "Jason will be there. Sounds great." That someone was Lisa. At first, I just stared at my phone, wondering why Lisa would do this. Did she mess up my calendar by mistake, or was this intentional? I wanted to believe there was a logical explanation, but deep down, I knew the truth. Lisa had set me up. She knew I couldn't miss a meeting once it was scheduled. The realization hit me hard. This wasn't a coincidence. She had planned this. Time was running out, and I didn't have time to process everything. Jenna informed me that the OneCorp team was already in the conference room, ready to discuss a potential deal. Skipping the meeting wasn't an option. It could hurt my reputation and the company's relationship with one of our biggest clients. So, I did what I had to do. I pushed my emotions aside, put on a professional face, and walked into the conference room like everything was fine. But inside, my mind was racing. I kept replaying the last few weeks, Lisa acting distant, avoiding talks about the trip, canceling plans, and spending more time with Taylor. I had brushed it off as work stress, but now it all seemed intentional. During the meeting, I kept checking my phone, hoping Lisa would text me some kind of explanation, but nothing came. When the meeting finally ended, I rushed back to my desk. My first instinct was to call her, but something told me to check her Instagram instead. It felt silly at first. What would Instagram have to do with this? But when I opened the app and saw her stories, my heart sank. There she was, at the resort I had booked for us, lounging by the pool with Taylor, laughing like nothing was wrong. I continued to scroll through her stories, and one of them showed the suite I had reserved. The very suite I had envisioned us staying in to celebrate her birthday and our anniversary. But she wasn't alone. Taylor was there, of course, but so were a few guys I didn't recognize. They all looked happy, laughing and posing for the camera like they were having an amazing time. I tried calling Lisa again, but it went straight to voicemail. Frustrated, I sent her a message. "What's going on? Why are you at the resort without me?" No reply. It was hard to process. She had used the booking I made, spent my money, and went on this trip without me. And not just without me, but with people I didn't even know. I sat there staring at her stories, trying to understand what was happening. The person I saw in those videos wasn't the Lisa I thought I knew. The one I had been with for 3 years, with whom I had planned a future. I felt sick. After connecting the dots, I couldn't hold back any longer. I kept calling her, each unanswered ring only making me angrier. It felt like she was avoiding me on purpose, as if not responding would somehow make the problem disappear. But after about a dozen calls that morning, she finally picked up. I didn't give her a chance to speak. "What's going on, Lisa? You sabotaged my morning so you could take this trip for yourself." My voice was trembling, a mix of rage and disbelief. Her response, however, was completely nonchalant. "Jason, I needed this trip to clear my head. You're always so uptight and focused on your plans. I just wanted to have fun for once." Clear her head? Fun? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Fun, Lisa? I planned this for us. This wasn't just any trip. It was our anniversary and your birthday. I was going to propose." I let it all out because there was no point in holding back anymore. And then she said something that I'll probably never forget. "Well, maybe it's good you didn't. Honestly, you're kind of boring sometimes. I knew you'd just kill the vibe." Boring? Kill the vibe? It was like everything I believed about our relationship had been a lie. I had spent months planning this vacation, not just for her, but for us. I had invested time, money, and effort to make it special, and she had the nerve to throw it back in my face. That was the final straw. "All right, Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you think I'm so boring, then you don't need my plans, my money, or my help. Enjoy the rest of the trip. You're on your own now." I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking as I called the resort. When I explained the situation to the receptionist, how Lisa had checked in without me and wasn't supposed to be using the reservation, they were very understanding and sympathetic. The first thing I requested was to cancel the remaining days of the stay. Since Lisa had already checked in, I couldn't get a full refund, but I could recoup most of the money for the unused nights. I immediately agreed. Losing a little money was worth knowing she wouldn't enjoy the rest of her stolen vacation. Next, I canceled all the activities I had arranged. The private dinner, the snorkeling trip, even the sunset sail I had planned for the proposal. With each cancellation, it felt like I was reclaiming a small piece of control. Lastly, I asked about the flights. Since I had booked everything through the same travel agency, I was able to cancel her return ticket. That one felt particularly good. A few hours later, my phone started buzzing again. Lisa had finally realized what I had done. The messages began with anger. "You're such a petty jerk. I can't believe you'd ruin my vacation like this." Then they shifted to guilt-tripping. "Wow, I didn't think you were this immature. You really need to grow up." Finally, she resorted to begging, "Jason, please. I made a mistake. Just rebook the flight, and we can talk when I get back." I ignored all of it. She also tried calling, but I didn't pick up. I was too furious and disgusted to hear her voice. Lisa hadn't just betrayed me. She had orchestrated this whole thing. She had gone behind my back, messed with my schedule, and lied to me just to enjoy a luxury trip with her friend and some random guys, all on my dime. I wasn't just angry at her, I was angry at myself for not realizing sooner. Eventually, I blocked her. I didn't want to hear her excuses, apologies, or insults. I needed to focus on myself and figure out what to do next. But before I blocked her, I sent one last message. "You wanted to clear your head and have fun? Fine, but don't expect me to clean up your mess. Find your own way home. Then I hit block. As I write this, Lisa is still trying to contact me through every means possible. She's using her friends' phones, emailing me, and even messaging me on apps I had forgotten about. The messages are a mix of anger and desperation. One minute, she's calling me immature for canceling everything, and the next, she's pleading for forgiveness. I'll keep you all updated on how things unfold. Any advice or thoughts would be appreciated. Hey everyone, I wanted to give a quick update since things have escalated. First, I want to thank everyone for the advice and support. Many of you suggested I tell Lisa's parents what happened, and at first, I wasn't sure. But after thinking about it, I realized they had a right to know the truth, especially since she would likely reach out to them for help. I wanted to ensure they knew the full story. Lisa's parents, let's call them the Thompsons, have always been kind to me. Her mom would call me her future son-in-law and even joked about saving a spot for me in their family photo album. Her dad was more reserved, but we bonded over sports and DIY projects whenever we visited. They genuinely seemed to like me, and I liked them too, so I decided to tell them what Lisa had done. I called her mom first. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time," I said, trying to stay calm and respectful. She immediately sensed something was wrong. "Jason, is everything okay? You sound serious," she asked. So I told her everything. I didn't hold back, and I made sure to highlight how calculated Lisa's actions were. Her mom was quiet at first, but then she let out a deep sigh. "Jason, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." It turns out Lisa had lied to them too. She had told her parents that I couldn't go on the trip because of work commitments and that she didn't want to waste the tickets. She had painted herself as the victim, claiming she needed the trip to clear her head after feeling neglected by me. Hearing that made me even angrier. Not only had she betrayed me, but she had tried to make herself look like the victim in front of her own family. Her mom apologized repeatedly, saying this wasn't like Lisa and that she couldn't believe her daughter would do something so selfish. That's when it dawned on me. Lisa hadn't just been lying to me. She had been lying to everyone. She hadn't just messed with my plans. She had kept her own family in the dark as well. She needs to grow up and face the consequences of her actions. Next, her dad got on the phone. Mr. Thompson isn't as chatty as his wife. He's more straightforward. When I explained what Lisa had done, his first words were, "That's ridiculous. She's 28, not 18. She knows better." He continued, "Well, Jason, I'll tell you this. We're not bailing her out. She made this mess, and she can clean it up herself." Hearing that was incredibly validating. It felt like confirmation that I had made the right decision to cut her off. Later that day, Lisa must have realized her parents weren't going to help her because the messages started flooding in again. At first, she was still trying to play the victim. "Why did you tell my parents?" "That's so immature, Jason. This is between us." But once she figured out that her parents weren't sending her money for a flight home, her tone changed. "Jason, please, I didn't mean for it to go this far." "I needed some space to figure things out, Jason. Can we talk? I made a mistake, and I need your help. I'm sorry, okay? Just call me back so we can work this out. Fix this. I'm not the one who messed things up. She's the one who lied, plotted, and betrayed me. At one point, she even tried to guilt-trip me. You're really going to leave me stranded after 3 years together? That's so cold." Cold? From the same woman who had no problem ruining my plans and using my money to party with other guys? The nerve was unreal. I didn't respond to any of it. Not the guilt trips, not the fake apologies, nor the weak attempts to shift the blame to me. Instead, I blocked her number. I wish I could say that was the end of it, But Lisa found other ways to contact me. She began emailing, messaging me on social media, and even tried calling using Taylor's phone. Speaking of Taylor, I'm not sure what her role is in all this. Part of me wants to believe she didn't know the whole truth, but she had to have noticed something was off. Either way, I'm not interested in her excuses. As of now, Lisa is still stuck at the resort. Her parents refuse to send her money, and according to Mrs. Thompson, Lisa doesn't have enough in her bank account to book a flight home. To those who suggested telling her parents, thank you. It felt so good to have their support and know I wasn't overreacting by being this angry about what happened. This whole situation has been a wake-up call. I spent 3 years with someone who didn't truly value me, and I'm done making excuses for her. Lisa can stay in Miami and figure out how to get home herself. Thanks again for all the advice and support. Let me know if you want more updates. Something tells me this isn't over yet. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update, and trust me, this one's wild. Before I dive into the new mess I uncovered, let me fill you in on what happened with Lisa after my last update. After I canceled everything, her hotel stay, activities, and return flight, Lisa was stuck at the resort. Her parents refused to help, and she didn't have enough money in her account to book a new flight. I guess she spent most of her money trying to keep up appearances while partying with her friends and those random guys. From what I've gathered, thanks to mutual friends who couldn't resist sharing, Lisa spent a few days scrambling to figure out a way back. She tried reaching out to Taylor for help, but even Taylor bailed at the last minute. Turns out, Taylor wasn't as loyal as Lisa thought. Apparently, she left for home early without telling Lisa. Eventually, Lisa managed to borrow money from a friend who felt sorry for her. But there were conditions. The friend made her repay every penny within a week of getting home, leaving Lisa in an even worse financial spot. She's been pretty quiet on social media ever since. After Lisa finally made it back to town, I had this nagging feeling there was more to the story. Something about the guys in her Instagram stories kept bothering me, so I decided to dig a little deeper. That's when I found Brandon. He was one of the guys at the resort, but he wasn't just a random dude. I realized I'd seen him before. He's her supervisor at work. His Instagram account was public, and as I started scrolling, everything started to click. Brandon had tons of photos with Lisa. Some were from work events, which could have been innocent enough, but others were more questionable. They had dinner together, went hiking, and even hung out at a rooftop bar. The captions weren't romantic, but the body language said everything. Then I saw a picture of Brandon, Lisa, and Taylor at a fancy restaurant. It was posted the same night Taylor had shared a story about a girls' night. Remember that night Lisa claimed she was working late, and Taylor posted about dinner? Turns out, Brandon was there too. It felt like all the lies Lisa had told me were unraveling before my eyes. I couldn't let it go, so I messaged Brandon directly. Hey Brandon, I think we need to talk. Looks like we've both been seeing the same girl. To his credit, he responded quickly. At first, he was confused, but when I sent him screenshots of my texts with Lisa and photos of us together, his tone changed fast. He called me that same day, and we had a long conversation. Turns out, Brandon had no idea Lisa was in a relationship. She told him she was single and wanted to take things slow because she was focused on her career. Brandon admitted he had been interested in her for a while, but hadn't made a move because, as her supervisor, he didn't want to cross any professional lines. Lisa, however, had been pushing those boundaries. Brandon shared some shocking details. Lisa had been inviting him out for work brainstorming sessions, but instead of meeting at the office, they went to fancy restaurants or coffee shops. She dropped hints about how tough it was to find someone who understood her and how much she admired his work ethic. One time, she even asked him to drive her home after a team event, saying she'd left her car at home. During the drive, she talked about feeling stuck in her personal life and needing a change. Looking back, Brandon said he had felt like Lisa was pushing things too far, but at the time, he didn't think much of it and just let it happen until they were basically dating. He wasn't even planning on going to Miami with them, but Lisa convinced him it wouldn't be a big deal since they'd be with a group, so no one would suspect anything. Now he realizes she was grooming him as her backup plan, or maybe her main plan, depending on how things went with me. As Brandon and I compared notes, everything made sense. The late nights at work were probably with Brandon. The weekend, she said she was too tired to hang out. Brandon had posted a picture of Lisa and Taylor at brunch. The Vegas trip? Brandon had invited her as part of a company retreat, but Lisa made it seem like she was visiting her parents. Even Taylor was in on it, backing Lisa up with excuses whenever she needed a cover story. It was like they saw me as the clueless boyfriend who would believe anything. Brandon was just as furious as I was. He felt betrayed and embarrassed, not just as her supervisor, but as someone who thought Lisa genuinely liked him. He even apologized to me, which was unexpected but appreciated. We ended the call agreeing that Lisa needed to face the consequences of her lies. Brandon said he'd handle things at work, but also wanted to confront her directly. I told him I was all in, and we'd make sure she couldn't keep doing this to people. Since that call, Brandon and I have kept in touch, sharing more details and planning our next steps. Lisa has no idea Brandon and I are in contact. And honestly, I can't wait to see her reaction when the truth comes out. As for Taylor, I'm done with her too. She's just as guilty, and I don't care to hear her excuses. Lisa, of course, is still trying to reach me. She's sent emails, messages from random numbers, and even tried leaving voicemails. Her latest excuse: "Jason, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please, can we just talk?" "No, Lisa, we can't. I'll keep you all posted as things develop. Thanks for sticking with me through this crazy ride. It's been a lot, but at least now I'm finally seeing the truth." Hey Reddit, I'm back with, hopefully, the final update to this insane saga. Buckle up. This one's the most satisfying yet. After all the lies, manipulation, and double life Lisa led, it was time for her to face some real consequences. I teamed up with Brandon, her boss and secret side guy, to reveal the truth, and it worked even better than I expected. We carefully planned our next move. We didn't want to come off as vindictive or crazy, so we decided the best approach was to hit her with the truth all at once. Brandon set up a meeting with Lisa, pretending it was about work matters, and I joined the call as a surprise guest. When the meeting began, Lisa was totally caught off guard. She stammered, "What's he doing here?" but didn't have time to say anything else before Brandon and I laid everything out. I showed screenshots of my texts with Lisa, photos of us together, and even old anniversary posts to prove we'd been in a long-term relationship. Brandon shared his side too, detailing how she pursued him at work, invited him out for brainstorming sessions, and lied about being single. We both confronted her about the web of lies she spun to keep her secret, including how she roped Taylor into helping her cover her tracks. At first, Lisa tried denying everything, saying, "This is a misunderstanding, and you're blowing it out of proportion." But as we showed her more evidence, she finally broke down, crying, "I didn't mean for this to happen. I just needed a break to clear my mind, but I wasn't confused." "You weren't stuck, Lisa. You were playing two people who trusted you while deceiving everyone around you. That's not being stuck. It's being selfish." Brandon didn't hold back either, saying, "Do you realize how many boundaries you crossed? You didn't just deceive me. You jeopardized my work reputation. You made me look like a fool." Lisa had nothing to say, sitting there sobbing and mumbling apologies. But at that point, neither of us cared anymore. After confronting her, Brandon reported the situation to HR. He explained how Lisa had been acting inappropriately, blurring the lines of their professional relationship. To make matters worse for her, other colleagues began sharing their experiences of Lisa's behavior. It turned out she wasn't very well liked at the office. She had a reputation for being fake and manipulative. However, most people stayed quiet to avoid causing problems. But once Brandon submitted his complaint, the floodgates opened. Within a week, Lisa was fired, the official reason being violating workplace policies. She tried to fight it, but the evidence was too strong against her. Getting terminated was just the start of Lisa's downfall. Word spread fast about what she had done, and her friends began cutting ties with her one by one. Even Taylor, her so-called best friend, dropped her quickly. From what I've heard, Taylor was more concerned about protecting her own image than supporting Lisa. Her parents weren't much more understanding either. After I kept them in the loop about everything that had happened, they saw her for who she really was. A few days ago, her mom called me to apologize again for Lisa's actions, telling me, "I don't know where we went wrong with her." Even her dad, who normally avoids personal matters, told Lisa she needed to get her life together and stop blaming others for her mistakes. Now, Lisa's completely isolated. Her former co-workers want nothing to do with her. Her friends have abandoned her, and her parents are tired of her behavior. As for me, I feel like a huge burden has been lifted. For 3 years, I thought I was building a future with someone who truly cared for me. But now I realize how mistaken I was. Instead of feeling bitter, I feel free. I've been focusing on myself, and it's been great. I booked a solo trip to Miami, the same trip I was supposed to take with Lisa, and it was exactly what I needed. Surfing, hiking, and simply enjoying my own company made me realize how much I had been neglecting myself while trying to make someone else happy who didn't deserve it. Brandon and I have stayed in touch, and he's doing well, although he admitted that dealing with the aftermath at work has been a bit awkward. He told me he's learned from this experience and plans to maintain stricter boundaries going forward. I respect him for that. He was as much a victim of Lisa's manipulation as I was. Even after all this, Lisa hasn't stopped trying to reach out to me. She's been sending emails, messaging me from random accounts, and even showed up at my apartment once. When I saw her at the door, I didn't let her in. I stepped outside and told her to go. She started crying and apologizing, saying she just wanted to talk. "Lisa, I don't think you get it," I said. "There's nothing left to talk about. You lied, you cheated, and you manipulated everyone around you. I don't care about your excuses. You made your choices, and now you have to deal with the consequences." She begged me to forgive her, saying she would change and make everything right. But I wasn't buying it. This isn't about forgiveness, Lisa. It's about respect, and you've lost all of mine. With that, I walked back inside and shut the door. To everyone who followed this story and offered advice and support, thank you. It's been a wild ride, but I'm glad I finally saw Lisa for who she really is. Here's to new beginnings.